Here's a number that stopped me in my tracks. Black women hold just 1.4% of C-suite roles, even though we make up 7% of the U.S. population. That's not a gap. That's a system. So today, we're naming the challenges and calling in the solutions.
This episode is brought to you by Fortis Mentis Psychiatry, where Black and brown girls can find individual therapy, mindfulness and meditation coaching, medication management, and case management. To learn more, go to fortismentispsychiatry.com/safe place.
Welcome back to Safe Place for Brown Girls. I'm your host, Dr. Kathleen Jude Estime, psychiatric nurse practitioner, and the host of a podcast that is designed for your space, a space where women of color can talk about healing, mental health, and all the things we carry in silence. Whether you're navigating trauma, stress, family dynamics, or the pressures to be everything to everyone, this is your safe place. Today's episode is for every sister who's ever felt unseen, unprotected, or underpaid in the workplace. We're talking about the 3 most common challenges that plague women of color at work, from being overlooked and underpaid to carrying the weight of microaggressions and invisibility. And to help us dive into this, the incredible Dr. Deeawn Roundtree joins me today. She's a leadership coach, DISC trainer, and management consultant. She holds dual doctorates, a doctorate in business administration and a doctor of ministry, and is certified as a senior professional in human resources. She helps professionals step into their leadership identity with strategy, clarity, and confidence. And she's here to unpack what's really going on in the workplace for women of color and how we can navigate it with power and grace. Today, I want to pick Dr. Roundtree's brain about Black and brown women in the workplace. We look at these statistics, and there's 3 main issues that come up over and over again. 1 is lack of representation and role models. 2 is microaggressions and implicit bias. And 3 is pay inequity and double standards. I want to spend our time here today. Is that okay? Welcome to the show, Dr. Roundtree. How have you been since we connected?
It's been great. It's so good to see you again since the summit that we did with
a networking event.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
It really was. So today I want to pick your brain about Black and brown women in the workplace. We look at this and there's 3 main issues that come up over and over. The lack of representation and role models, microaggressions and implicit bias, and pay inequity and double standards. I want to spend some time there today. Is that okay?
Hey.
Here's some stats that is crazy to believe. Black women hold just 1.4% of C-suite roles, and Latino women are consistently underrepresented in leadership. So, Dr. Roundtree, what does it mean to have so few women of color in leadership? And how does that absence ripple through organizational culture and opportunity?
Well, Kathleen, let me just back up a little bit. As a certified leadership trainer, coach, and speaker, I'm certified with the Dr. John Maxwell team. One of the motivations of becoming a full-time leadership trainer, coach, and speaker, although I have been doing it for multiple years, is because of the treatment and the experiences that I personally had when I was in the workplace. And what I saw for myself is that we are undervalued, we are underutilized. We have stereotypes that are held against us. As women of color, we have that double jeopardy of being both Black women and, of course, our gender. So we are already behind the 8 ball when we show up in the workplace, which is why I decided I wanted to create a leadership program designed for women of color. It's called Black in the Boardroom, and it is a place where we can come together to support one another, to discuss some of these unique challenges that we face, because everyone has challenges in the workplace, but because of our race, because of our color, we have those additional barriers that we face. Not to mention the intercultural barriers that we have. Many of us are either native to America. Many of us, we were born in the Caribbean or outside of the United States. And so when you couple all those factors, there could be a cultural barrier, language barriers, accents to our communication. There's just a lot that we have to deal with. And during my leadership training and coaching with Black women and women of color, uh, what I realized during, my own training, I got 2 doctoral degrees, one in business and one in ministry. What I found in the research is that we as women of color, when we are misperceived, when we are undervalued, when we don't get the positions that we are qualified for, that we did so much to attain, going to school, getting multiple degrees, getting that experience. And then when we're still felt as if we're not good enough, or if there's some glass ceiling or artificial reason to keep us from attaining our goals, what happens to us, and not just us as women of color, but I'm also thinking about men as well. We internalize that. We internalize it and we start believing that we don't fit in or that we're not good enough, which again is the motivation for Black in the Boardroom. This executive coaching program really is about helping us to change our mindset for ourselves, helping us to renew and see the value that we bring to organizations and companies and the economy. I mean, women of color, we own about 2.1 million businesses in the United States. And if you look at that collectively, that's $100 billion that we bring to the economy. So it's time for us to stop seeing ourselves as victims and woe is me and look at how they treat us, to really taking a different mindset and showing this country and the marketplace that you need us just as much as we need you. And if you don't see our value, then we will create our own marketplace. We will create the demand, because when we go into these companies, we bring in billions of dollars. We make these organizations a lot of money and we make them look good. And that's every sector of society, whether it's political, whether it's in the medical field, whether it's in corporate America, in academia, in healthcare. No matter where you find women of color, we make the work world a better place. And so we need a support system to undergird us and to keep our confidence level up when we are facing these barriers and these challenges every day that truly demoralize us and causes us and discourages us from keeping ahead of the game. So why I started this program is because of what you just said. Women of color and Black women particularly, we are tremendous. We're tremendous women. We're tremendous worker bees, and we have to do something unique to combat these barriers. And that means we need to unify. We need to support each other so that we can confirm to ourselves that we're just as good, and in some areas, if not better, in,
Absolutely.
in the workplace.
hmm
So,
So it sounds to me like you're describing imposter syndrome. So can you describe to our audience what exactly is, because talk about imposter syndrome all the time. Can you explain to the audience what imposter syndrome is?
well, to me, when I hear imposter syndrome, that's internal. That
Mhm.
means that you are promoted, let's say, to a CEO position,
Mhm.
but you really don't feel like you have the qualifications and skills and experience
Mhm.
to take on those roles. And so what causes that imposter syndrome, it's internal. It's how we're seeing ourselves. It's how
Mhm.
we are seeing ourselves based on, what we think the qualifications and skills are. For example, I have a dear friend who is also a client who got this VP role. And she felt that she truly wasn't qualified. She didn't have the certification. She didn't have the
Mhm.
degree. She didn't even have the experience. But she did have some experience. But because she felt that she did not meet the expectations that was, in writing, she herself was suffering from imposter syndrome. It's again,
Mhm.
it's this superficial feeling that we get because we feel that we don't measure up and we're trying to pretend that we are more than what we really believe we are. And again, that's a mindset, Kathleen. And again, which
Mhm.
is why I feel like this program, it's not just a program. I mean, this is really an intentional way for us to get out of our own way. And I believe when we get out of our own way, people will perceive us differently.
Mhm. Absolutely. Because the way you feel about yourself, it resonates and people pick up on it. The
Absolutely. It's called the
confidence.
law of attraction. When we
Absolutely.
feel bad about ourselves because we've been beat down, because we've internalized these negative perceptions of ourselves, when we've believed the stereotypes ourselves because we've been told this. You're an
Mhm.
angry black woman. Well, if you believe you are an angry black woman, number one, you're going to demonstrate that behavior.
Mhm.
You're going to live up to the expectation,
Station.
those
Mhm.
negative stereotypes, because that's what people are expecting from you. So
Mhm.
once we, as Black women and women of color, start changing how we perceive ourselves, regardless of what other people feel and think about us, when we start saying, no, that's not me, and that never was me,
Mhm.
we will show up more positively, more professionally, and we will have the ability to take control of our own happiness in the workplace and in our personal lives. But like you just said, Kathleen, it starts with you and me and how we see ourselves. We got to stop
Our
blaming
perception.
and
Absolutely.
stop seeing ourselves as a victim because we're really not, unless we choose to be.
Victimization. Absolutely. So when women of color can't see themselves at the table, what strategies help them be seen or supported and visible?
Well, number one, once we deal with the internal perception that we have,
Mhm.
and once, I'll just say this for myself, I have what, 4 degrees.
Mhm.
Now, this was something I must admit, the 2 doctoral degrees in business and ministry, that was not on my radar. But I knew I needed at least a bachelor's degree, which I do in business, and a master's degree in leadership because I knew I wanted to do this type of consulting eventually. So I knew for me to feel confident, and to be taken seriously, and to distinguish myself from the competition, I wanted to have that credibility, which is
Mhm.
why beyond these degrees, I went and got my certification as a senior certified professional with SHRM. I
Wow.
didn't have to, but I felt like if I did it, it would set me apart. It will broaden my audience. And then when I decided to get my doctorate in business, that was because I had a son and I wanted to get out of corporate and I wanted to go
Mhm.
into academia to have a
Okay.
little more laid back career.
Mm-hmm.
And then I felt inspired by the Lord, by the Holy Spirit, to go and get my doctorate of ministry. And being able to do that, to be able to speak to faith based communities and not just the secular world,
Mm-hmm.
that has been a gift in and of itself. And it affirmed my own faith and my own knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So getting the degrees, the certifications, the training, the experience, the skills that you need, it's all about how it makes you feel to show up confidently, knowing I can do all things through Christ who strengthens
Yeah.
me. Why? Because I'm prepared.
Mm-hmm.
I've been through the war zone. I've done my due diligence and paid my dues. So I can show up. Yes, I can take on any role that you have out there because I'm qualified. When we're not qualified, we compare ourselves to others. We become
Mm.
envious and jealous. We become demoralized. We discourage. That imposter syndrome shows up
Yep.
and we self sabotage. So we have to look at how we see ourselves, Kathleen, and really understand and really analyze, self analyze. How do I really feel about me? How do I feel about me? Do a
And
self
what's
analysis. And any gap that you feel is missing, you're missing a degree, you're missing skills,
mm-hmm.
experience, fill that gap. And as we fill those gaps, it assures us, it shores up our confidence to take on these leadership roles in any sector, in our own business, in the workplace, in our families as well.
Wonderful. And how can organizations proactively support membership and sponsorship that addresses both race and gender?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question, Kathleen. Why? Because I had the pleasure before all of this political mayhem began against
Mhm.
DEI of going into particular organizations that intentionally want to support the diverse population that's represented in their organizations. And I was hired as a trainer, leadership trainer, and I actually was able to train their Black leaders and others who look like us.
Mhm.
And boy, was it gratifying. Not just to me as a consultant, but to the employees who participated. Just to think that their employer wants to support them, realizes the value of being in a collective environment that supports each other, where they
Mhm.
can challenge each other. That's why I created this executive coaching programs, because many of these companies dissolve these programs as a result of what's happening politically.
Political.
So these
Mhm.
affinity groups, I pray that these organizations keep them, but many of them have done away with them because of what's happening politically, and that's unfortunate. But the alternative is for me and others to create our own networks
Mhm.
where we can come together and truly and intentionally support each other as if we were hired by these organizations until the political climate
Change.
changes. Because until it does, we're just out there all by ourselves, trying to
Mhm.
figure it out, talking to each other, focusing on the problem, but not enough on the solution.
And why does that matter so much? Why do we need to build our own table?
Well, number one, again, we bring so much value to organizations that see our worth. We make them millions and billions of dollars annually, sometimes daily. And we are, particularly as African Americans, we have what, $20 trillion that we spend helping everyone get rich just by our spending as consumers. And if we're
Mhm.
making everybody else rich, someone needs to see the value that we bring into the marketplace. We, as African Americans, our purchasing power is number one in this country. Number
Mhm.
one. All our money comes in, and most of it leaves our
Leave.
community
Mhm.
to make everyone else money. So we have to come together and realize the value by starting our own businesses and being the proletariats, if you will, of the
Mhm.
resources that are out there so that people who look like us can buy from us. You know, we talk about boycotting this person or this organization and this company, but where are we going to go if we don't have the resources ourselves? If we don't have the shopping and retail stores and grocery stores, if we don't have them in our own community owned by us and other organizations, other companies in every sector of society that's owned by people who look like us, then we don't have a choice
Mhm.
but
Absolutely.
to frequent these other organizations that don't value our dollar, that don't value our creativity and what we bring to the marketplace.
Oh, so it is about dollars and cents at the end of the day.
Bottom line,
Bottom
bottom
line.
line.
Okay. So, what about microaggressions? Women of color experience microaggressions at significantly higher rates. The studies show that they're almost 3 times as likely to report othering or disrespectful biases, which doubles the risk of burnout. So, talk to us
Yeah.
about burnout. Can you share some real world examples of microaggressions for women of color?
I mean, there's every day you and I are experiencing this otherness in some form or fashion. Why? Because our uniqueness is very apparent. God created us with color. God
Mhm.
created us with a different texture of hair. God
Mhm.
created us with a different voice and culture.
Mhm.
So, because our uniqueness physically is so apparent, it's very easy to make us feel like others if we agree with them. That's why I started, the conversation talking about our internalization of these perceptions. People coming up to your hair trying to see if it's real. Do you do that to your counterparts who look
Mhm.
like you? Our hair, thank God, whatever, it's hair.
Mhm.
And truth be told, the mainstream, they don't, a lot of times these like us, their hair is no more real than any other woman who may have a weave or who may have
Absolutely.
extensions. They're
Yes.
doing it too. But people aren't coming up to them and doing all like this. Is this your real? Yes, it's my hair. What of it? It should not determine our worth. Looking at the
Mhm.
surface and the superficial way that we look instead of our hearts and the value that we bring as individuals, number one, it's asinine because all we're
Mhm.
doing is imploding our own country. I mean, just
Absolutely.
like they do. I mean, we are the front line in the military, women and men of
Mhm.
color. We love our country just as much as anyone else. We're in the
Mhm.
school systems. We're teaching. We're professors. We're lawyers. We're doctors. We're in every sphere of this country. And yet, if it's on us to
Mhm.
continue to allow what someone says about your hair or your voice or your mannerism or the way you talk or where you come from, if someone else tries to undermine our value, then it's only up to you and I to make a choice not to agree, not to accept it. We don't have to get angry. We don't have to get mad. It's a choice to feel that way. We're
Mhm.
making a decision to agree when someone comes at us with that nonsense. We also have the power and the choice, because God gave us a brain, to choose not to and let
Mhm.
them stay in their ignorance, whoever they are. And that doesn't mean that people who don't look like us, all of them think like that. There are many people who don't look like us, who understand our value and our worth, who accept us, who embrace us, and who want us. Many people who don't look like us. And we, you and me, we all need to focus on them and stop giving our attention to these people that we work with, people in the community, people who are not purchasing our products and saying, oh, I must not be good enough. That's a definition that we choose to have for ourselves. Again, we can't control what they think, whoever
Hmm.
they are,
Hmm.
but we can control what
Absolutely.
we think about ourselves.
So, what do you believe? What is the mental health toll do repeated microaggressions take, and how can women of color protect and navigate themselves? How can they can protect their well being while working to thrive?
Well, again, it all goes back to what we've been discussing, Kathleen. We,
Hmm.
number one, have to take responsibility and control of our own self worth, our own self esteem,
Hmm.
how we think about
Hmm.
ourselves, our own mindsets, our own thoughts, being more intentional. Every day I wake up, Lord, thank you for waking me up to see a new day.
Hmm.
My faith is
Absolutely.
my anchor.
Yes.
There are days when I look at myself and I'm like, oh, Lord, do I need a facelift or, Lord, do I need to come? There are times when we don't feel 100%, right?
Hmm.
But the anchor is not in the superficial. My anchor is in who God is and how he sees me. And I think
Absolutely.
when we as women, women of color, and others, if we start there and realize that God made us in his image and
Hmm.
he said everything he made is good, and we stay and cultivate that relationship that we have with our Heavenly Father. For me, it's Jesus Christ. He died on the cross for my sins, whatever your religion.
Hmm.
We need to get back to that foundation. And
Hmm.
once you're anchored foundationally, spiritually, these superficial things that come at us, this external stimuli that a lot of times we don't have control, we will be buffered against that. Someone doesn't like us, we go to social media and we see, these things. What happens is our spiritual connection to God, whoever you consider that to be, if you have a true relationship with your spiritual being, like I do, then
Hmm.
it buffers you from a lot of the nonsense and the challenges and the warfare that is so prevalent in our world. There's a real spiritual dynamic
Hmm.
dimension in this life. And so once you and I are understanding who we are from a spiritual standpoint, that what others say and think about us does not define me, but what
Hmm.
defines me is what my Heavenly Father thinks and feels and says about who I am. That right there is going to protect us from a lot and most of the barriers. Yes, some things will penetrate because we're human,
Yes. Hmm.
but we get back up and we say,
Absolutely.
okay, let me get back to the center. Let me not look at these people to get my value and my worth.
Absolutely. And how can white allies and non-women of color step into meaningful but allies? How can they become our allies that
Yeah.
reduces bias and shifts culture?
Well, like I said, this one particular company that I had the honor and privilege of being hired as a consultant actually worked intentionally with their diverse populations to show their value. I believe other mainstream cultures and individuals, there are a lot of good people out there, just like
Mhm.
there were, before, slavery was abolished. There were
Mhm.
white men and women who were out there on the front line risking their lives so that
Mhm.
Black people could have freedom. There are Caucasians and others
Mhm.
today who know that they have an advantage just by how they look and who understand that, what, we all serve a God and one day we're going to be accountable and realize that they're no better than we are and that we're all going to bleed, we all die, and we're all going to be accountable for our actions. It's those
Mhm.
good people, those genuine people out there that I know are there, that I've met, who can support, whether they're in the workplace, whether they're in their own businesses, and support these organizations that are owned by women of color and
Mhm.
other minorities. Yeah, the political dynamic now is you can't say minority, you can't say black or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But that does not impede us from supporting each other intentionally. And I think, you know what, this is happening so that we will. No, we might not be minority anymore or disadvantaged or black. You don't want to, acknowledge that there really is discrimination. Okay, well, then we need to be more intentional in supporting those who support us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so Black women earn only 64% and Latinas just 54% of what white men earn. This gap is not explained by education alone and shows structural inequity. Beyond the raw numbers, what subtle double standards, like being labeled too emotional or aggressive, impacts how women of color are evaluated?
Yeah, so again, a lot of times we cannot control how others label us, and how others perceive us. Just by those statistics alone shows that there is a double standard and a need for DEI instruments to monitor and control
Mm-hmm.
that. But because these mechanisms are being done away with, so that people who don't have a moral compass and who
Mm-hmm.
truly think less of people of color and who just want to take advantage and continue to try to lord it over us because they're afraid and threatened by us. So they feel that they have to do these unjust things by keeping pay inequitable and not paying us what we're worth. A lot of times we can't control those organizations, those people behind those organizations who are making those decisions. But what you and I can control,
Mm-hmm.
we can decide that, okay, they're not going to pay me. I can choose to continue to work there until I find something else. I can also start my own company to
Absolutely.
supplement my income
Mm-hmm.
and stop looking at our jobs as our only source. We have to
Mm-hmm.
create multiple streams of income, whether we're in the
Absolutely.
workplace full time, part time, or not. Even as a business owner, full time, I have to look for multiple streams of income because if I just
Mm-hmm.
look at one training, for example, for me, it's not going to cut it. I
Mm-hmm.
have to offer, I have books, I do
Vice
coaching, I
versa.
do speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to diversify. And so
Mm-hmm.
we have to stop giving others who don't appreciate and support us so much control over who we are and over our finances. We have to find other ways to support each other by buying black and helping those and supporting those who support us. There are those out there, companies, organizations, people who do not look like us, who understand the value that we bring, who understand that's the only color that matters in the marketplace is
Is
green.
green. Absolutely. Now, for the listeners preparing to navigate and negotiate pay or take promotions, especially early in their career, what advice do you give based on the broken rung data?
Yes, so there really is a broken rung. But I think number one, and again, we can only control ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Number one is to make sure we show up with excellence. Make sure that our I's are dotted, our T's are crossed, that we are showing up professionally, that we are doing our job to the best of our ability. And if there's any gaps in our credentials or qualifications, that we fill those gaps, even if others don't have to. It's not
Absolutely.
about that. It's about us. It's about how we see ourselves and what we are experiencing. And that's okay because it's just going to make us better. For who? For another organization. For who? For our own organizations that we
Mm-hmm.
start. So once we show up and we have done everything in our human power to be the best that we can be in these organizations, once we've done that and no one sees our value, then we have a choice. We can
Now,
continue to stay, we can document and go to HR, we can even
mhm.
file a lawsuit. It depends
Okay.
on where you want your energy. For me, I would choose to leave. I would choose to stay there because I need a paycheck. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I would be dotting my I's and crossing my T's for myself and
Mhm.
looking for another organization. And, people leave bosses. So go to another company, organization, department, someone who you can get along with, someone who supports you, sees your value. And of course, we have to do our own work. We have
Mhm.
to make sure that we are the best that we can be for ourselves.
So,
That changing
absolutely.
our mindset, doing, having a coach like myself, I love the transformation that I see when women of color and others, when they go through the process that I've created, because I've been through it myself, and they realize that they are more in control than they ever thought they were. And stop giving our control to others, thinking that only God has ultimate control.
Absolutely. I love when you said that. Absolutely. Amen. Now, what can leaders change structurally to close these wage gaps and ensure equitable evaluation methods, promotion pipelines, and compensation transparency?
Well, in my humble opinion, you can have
Mhm.
all the processes and structures in place, which they already do, but it's about the individual. When
Mhm.
you have individuals who are in these roles, who are intentional and sincere about supporting a diverse population, it won't matter. Just like they are getting rid of DEI and affirmative
Mhm.
action now. If those metrics, they help because you have something to stand on when these rules and regulations are violated. We can go ahead and sue. We can do that. But if these mechanisms are done away with, then it's up to us. We're going to have to definitely seek support in other ways. We're going to have to
Absolutely.
talk to attorneys and see what kind of recompense do we have, what kind of weapons do we have to really support us when we are violated, when our rights are violated. Now, but those mechanisms, keep in mind, even with these mechanisms in place,
Mhm.
affirmative action, human resources, all these structures and processes, and there's still discrimination.
Absolutely.
There's still pay
Mhm.
inequities. There's
Mhm.
still not enough diversity at the CEO level in these organizations. So yes, they're there and they're there to keep us accountable, which is why we need them. But we have to realize that in spite of them, that we still have these barriers, these glass ceilings, these limitations. So
Amazing.
we have to get into different roles, to either starting our own businesses, going
Mhm.
to companies that value us and working for them as they help and work for us. If they value us and value our dollar, those are the companies that we need to support. Those are the organizations we need to work for.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Roundtree. Thank you so much for joining us today. That was really
Absolutely.
an eye opening conversation.
Thank you.
If someone's listening and wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way to do so?
Say the best way to do so is you can find me on LinkedIn, Roundtree Training and Consulting, which is my last name. It's the name of my company. And go to my website. My website is my name, deeawnroundtree.com, or Roundtree Training. You can look me up on Google and find me there. You can reach out to me. My email is droundtreeconsulting@gmail.com. I have multiple emails, but that's the easiest one. So reach out to me that way. And my telephone number, my office line is 561-323-3845. I would love to support you, your organization, and give you the tools you need to exceed your expectations and be more in control of your career.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Roundtree.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Kathleen.
All right. Thank you so much for listening today. And a big heartfelt thank you to Dr. Deeawn Roundtree for joining us and sharing her insights, expertise, and truth with us. What a gift. If you want to learn more or connect with Dr. Roundtree, make sure to check the show notes below. We've got her contact information and links to her work waiting for you. And girl, if you're battling bias, broken rung, or pay inequity, just know it's not just emotional work. It's strategy. It's healing. And you don't have to do it alone. You can find support by booking a session with me at fortismentedpsychiatry.com/help. This is your safe place, and you're always welcome here.
This episode was brought to you by Fortis Mentis Psychiatry, where Black and brown girls can find individual therapy, mindfulness and meditation coaching, medication management, and case management. To learn more, go to fortismentespsychiatry.com/safe place.